All right, we're back. It is COMP3025 in the winter 2017 semester, and we are week 6, part 2 of our broadcast. We've been doing some work with Ionic, and on the break, what I did was I kind of created a list with multiple columns inside my home page link. So notice that there's different tabs. We're going to keep these tabs separate. We're going to still have an About and Contact page, but the home page will be a games list. That's what I've added in. Now, how did I do this? I've actually put up everything on GitHub. On the home page itself, so there's the home.html. Notice I have a header, which says home. We can change this so it says games, or my games. We have when I do that, it automatically updates. So it'll say my games, and then my games, here's the games list, right? The games list I've put inside something called a list, an Ion list. And for Ion components, if you go to the Ionic website, and you go all the way to the top, you can see that if I go to docs, and if I look at UI components, right, on the left, you'll see a bunch of different components and their respective code right next to it. So for example, I want to bring up an action sheet. I can make this happen by just following the basic component usage right here. Part of it is code, and part of it, especially for basic alerts and prompts and everything else, part of it is right in here. So lots of stuff, lots of code ready for us. It's all ready to go with not a lot of work. What I wanted to do is set up a list. So here's our list. And notice that they have several kinds of lists. So if I go to basic lists, let's click away. So here's our basic list, right? We have an Ion list, and inside the list is a button. And the button itself is the whole list. The whole list is a button. So each list item is a button, right? Now this is kind of cool because we press the button, it takes us to our details page. That's what we want to do, right? So when we click the button, our details page pops up, right? And that's what it's going to do. That's what we want it to do right now, okay? You can also have different styles of lists. So this one has no lines. An inset list, which is just going to be a list that's kind of popped in a little bit. I kind of like that, inset lists. And all we have to do to add that in is Ion list inset. So let's try that. So instead of Ion list, you figured it out? Okay. You'll tell me in a sec. Inset. Okay. And if I put this in, all I've done is structured a list just like this, and I put my code. So each list item itself is inside of a row. There's the ng4 Ion item, right? And the ng4 is let game of games, just like we saw before, right? But inside of there, instead of just putting the game name, I've populated inside columns, right? So Ion column, and inside the column, there's a list, the actual name of the item or cost or rating or whatever, right? All right, list dividers. First of all, let's see what our inset list looks like. It looks like this now. So little inset. And you may not be seeing it, but I don't see any lines here at all yet. All right, so my Ion list, if I go back, by basic lists, yeah, I do. Where I don't have no lines, right? So I should see lines, but I'm not seeing lines, and there's reasons for this, of course. So if I scroll down, list dividers, right? So you can kind of divide it up by different categories or an item group. So for example, I might have like adventure games, sci-fi games, RPGs, strategy games, whatever. If you want to separate it into that list, you can probably do something like that. We're not going to do that. We're just going to make one big list. For your to-do list, it'd be one big list of to-dos, right? Don't expect you to sort it or anything. List headers, where you can say comedy, action, like we talked about. Icon list, this is neat. So I've kind of done that. I said Ion item, right? And then inside you have different icons, right? And I'm just going to pull up the icons for a second so you can see what they are. So Ionic comes with its own icons. You don't have to download and install things like for Font Awesome or anything. It just actually has this. If you actually go to, icons. If I want the icons list, it says, here's our icons, Ionicons, right? You can see that there's lots and lots of icons to choose from, right? That kind of makes sense, right? That are built in. And if you want to choose something, like for example, I wanted to choose, build. Like I said, I wanted to kind of make build for my list. Here's build, right? And I want to use this wrench or this wrench, doesn't matter because it looked differently in iOS outline or material design, whatever you want. Let's say I use iOS outline. Then you can see that it's iOS build or iOS build outline or MD build. And then this is the code for it if I want to use the icon. It's very simple. So you kind of slap this icon right into where you want to go, right? So I'm just going to use build, icon name, which is what I've done, right? And I'm going to put this in something called options. We're going to get there in a second. So here's our ion icon, name is build, and then it's going to go with our edit. But my button, my edit is right here, and my icon's up here. We got to figure this out. And Anthony might have a solution for us in a second. Let's go back. So again, I'm building the list up. You can also build up a list of avatars, right? So different images for people if you want. Multi-line list, right, where you can see that there is the list item itself, and then with the avatar next to it, and then a bunch of other things where you have an H3 and a P tag for some information, and it's styled nicely. What I wanted to do was create something called a sliding list. A sliding list. Now it does say check out the API documentation. I'm wondering if this is what we have to check. Did you do that, Anthony, for the sliding list? API docs?
I ended up putting I can show you.
All right. Well, let's see. 'Cause my problem is I want to set up a sliding list, right? But here's the usage. So it gives you an example of usage. So here's my ion item sliding with my item number, my number item, whatever that is, right? And then there's the ion item. So if I look at my stuff, my ion item is actually a dynamic item, and the row itself that's inside the item is going to be dynamically generated from my database. So it's going to link through, because we're using ng4, a for loop, which loops through this all the items in the database and displays one row per each item, right? So here's our options left. Notice that they have a bunch of items. There's a couple of buttons in left, and that's how they did it, right? And right, there's two buttons there, left and right. And you can see that you have some code here as well. Ion button, and then favorite with some kind of icon, right, that they want to put in here as well. And one thing I don't see, even though they show the example here, I'm not really seeing the icon, like where they put the icons, which might be messing me up, but I don't think that's it. Swipe direction. So here's right and left, and you can put multiple buttons. And here are the icon. Here's the example of the icon. So where you have the ion item options right, and then the ion button, you have some kind of button event, which we're going to make later on. And I just want to fix this out. Then there's the listening for swipes and drags. It's an event type, which we've done things. And then button layout, how to lay things out. It tells you how to do stuff. Instance members for close and different things. We can actually do things with code. And they give you the sliding options so I can close it up. So once I do this and I import this into my, my page code, then I can control my sliding item, whatever that is. Which is kind of cool. So my issue is not any of that. My issue is when I make this list. So if I go back to my list, here's what it looks like. And if I refresh the list, here it is. And if I slide to the left, I don't get my names, right? Sliding to the right, I don't care about. I don't get my names. And what I want is these names. So Anthony, show me, why don't you come up and show me what you did with what we were looking for. So this is our current code.
I got these guys' buttons, and I've got a site over here. I couldn't find a good edit icon.
Okay, that's fine.
I've got proper icons.
Okay, that's fine. So what'd you do?
So I had to put a row inside the item that you want to display in the columns.
Item, yeah. Row. Ion columns, yeah.
Yeah.
And then?
And then outside of there, I just added the options and
Button,
make sure you.
button.
Like I had I don't know which thing you're looking at for the icon docs, but I found two separate links, and like one of them had old icons that messed up everything. So maybe specifically try using like the trash one, see if that comes up for you, because that might be what's messing you up.
Name is trash. Ion icon. Delete. I haven't done anything differently. You're still using Angular to do it? To kind of...
Yeah, I'm using Angular too. I'm using Ionic version 2.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Right, so Angular 2 is being used. Just mine's really weird. Ion button. Color primary, yeah. Edit. and ion options. Ion option item sliding. Ion list, that's good. And inside the ion content, right? There you have it inside?
Yeah, I've got an inside of my own content here.
That's exactly what I did. I didn't do anything different. Look. Ion column, ion row. You only have one row, right? In your item?
Yeah, I've got one row within the item.
Ion item sliding. Just right here.
Where's your ion? Oh, there's your item list. Yeah, item list.
And how are you making it work with Angular? Have you made it work with Angular here?
I don't have it data binding to the backend, but I mean that should data bind. It's outputting text, right?
Well, what's the other stuff that you got up there? That's some other buttons.
Just mocks and stuff. That's the stuff up here. But,
yeah, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know why this is doing why is it producing what it's doing? And everyone is a column, right?
Yeah, everything has its own individual column.
Which is exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Button. Oh, I didn't make mine buttons. You just made your test buttons.
They weren't buttons before, and I was working fine about
buttons. Button. Yeah, I'm just not getting the words. So go back to your options. The problem that I'm having, guys, is the ion button, ion options. Oh, you put sides, so left and right, but you don't have to. You can put, actually, this is the problem. See your ion item options, right? Mm-hmm. And where I have my buttons, I can put both buttons inside the same options. And I can put in
left there in your buttons.
So
I don't have icon left.
Well, it doesn't really matter. It didn't do anything.
Oh, okay.
Let's get rid of that. But that's not the issue.
Okay.
But maybe what I got to put is on options side right, just up here. Side is equal to right. I don't think that's neat. That's the issue either myself, because otherwise we would get it. Let's see, the same thing. We're not getting anything different there.
Can I see your button really quickly? Yes, you're not getting text.
Yeah, the text is like missing. Now you put it on a different column, different lines, but there's no reason for it. Well, we have to go back to the drawing board. Anyways, here's the good thing. For now, we're going to accept it because we're I'm not going to putz around and try and figure out what this is right now from a perspective. And I want also the other thing to try doing is I'm going to copy this link. Sometimes this helps too. And I'm going to go to another browser. I just want to see what it looks like in Firefox or something else. I frequently do this when it comes to these frameworks because sometimes you get some really weird effects. So here's Firefox. Let's see what it looks like. Right? Same. So this is a good indicator now of that it's the same. It's endemic of my problem. Something's going on here with my icons. It's almost like my my CSS is messing me up. And that might be the thing, right? Maybe because I'm putting it on the home page or something weird. I don't know. But there's a CSS problem for sure. And if I inspect it, so let's just get rid of this and go back to this. And I kind of open it up, and then I right-click and inspect, right? So I want to inspect that line. And you can see that what's happening here is I've got this class that comes up, right? So I want to see, here's my styles with my margin, and I wonder if that button, oh, let's go back to home for a second. What I wanted is this button here to come up, and this is what I was looking for. Button primary with a margin and a height. Let's see if I can take that height off. Border. See if I take off the inline flex. Doesn't really matter, right? Here's my button itself. My button overflow is hidden. My border radius, my height is 3.6 rem. I wonder why that's being overwritten here. Font size. Okay, that's the font size. Font weight. Transform. It's my transition. Just the transition in color. Position relative. My Z index. And ellipses. Vertical align. I'm wondering if it's one of these font family. And it's really hard to tell because even if I click on this thing, you can see that I'm trying to impose a, some things are being crossed out. Like it's almost like one style is overriding the other one. And there is a main.css that's in play. I wonder if I can get rid of that. Do you have a main CSS, Anthony? So I wonder if that's what it is. And that would be under my theme, app.css. That's my app. There's my pages. There's my tabs. And inside my, that would be under www, I'm guessing. Where is that? Where do you have it? Oh, here it is, under build. That's, but this is a lot of stuff here, man. Like there's a lot of basic things that they've added in. I mean, it might be this, but I doubt it, because otherwise it would have problems everywhere. This is not supposed to cause problems. This is actually supposed to be a very clean framework, right? All right. One more thing we can try is we can say ion list, ion columns, sliding, text not showing, optional wrappings of text inside ion list items, ionic center, text vertically and horizontally on screen. That's 2015 though. I'm not sure if that would apply. Cannot add ion icon inside an ion item containing a, what's this? Ion input. Yeah, don't care about that. That's not what it is. How to display an ion icon multiple lines, responsive columns. I wonder if you know what it is. Maybe we just don't. Let me try it not putting it in columns. Just curious, just from a different setup perspective. So I'm going to go back to, for those people who are still watching and interested, I'm going to go to app.html. I mean, sorry, pages, home.html. And instead of doing this in columns, I'm going to put this in right now in all kind of in one after the other. So let's do something like this. Let's say this will be an H2 tag, right? And we'll say end H2. And this will be an H3 tag. I'll put this inside an H3 tag as well. So it's a separate, same level tag, but it's just instead of columns, we'll put it instead of a row. And let's see what that looks like now. Totally not what I wanted. Maybe that's the issue. So that is a good hint about what's going on. So I go to list, and what I want to find here is under list, I want to do a if I go to my docs, sorry, I go to docs, components. On the left, I want to go to lists. What happens when you live code? We talked about multi-line list. Let's do this. So ion item, ion avatar, H2 and H3. Okay. Ion list, ion item. And let's get it out of the ion row. Maybe the row is the issue. So ion item, ion row. And then let's do this. And refresh. Looks like this. And if I slide, I tried taking the items out, so just to see what it looks like to make it bigger. And by the way, I'm having an issue with sliding down here. It's almost like I can't touch the other one. Look, when I do this, it messes up the other list. I can't slide this one at all. That's really bizarre. Ion list. So let's put this in here. Ion sliding. Sliding. Makes me angry. I'm getting angry. You don't like me when I'm angry, right? I feel like the Hulk. You know, I'm just gonna, right now what I'm gonna do is just to fix this problem, because we want to make sure that it works properly, is I'm gonna put two buttons, one on the left and one on the right. One is going to be a blue button that says edit. The other one's going to say delete. Seriously, no swiping, right? Because otherwise, I mean, I'm having all these issues, and I'm not, well, that's it, right? So, you know, for me to go through this and I want to show you something that works, it's not, the sliding thing's not working for me. So it's going to get rid of it. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to undo. No.
The star NG4, put that under icon item sliding. The icon item sliding. Put it under
oh, this.
Yeah, just the star NG4. Put that up
here.
Yeah.
And but leave the ion item here.
Yeah.
Okay, we can try that. Is that what you did?
That's what I did, and I have the text appearing now.
Oh, I would love you if you did that. If you made it work, buddy, right? This is good props for you. All right, let's see if you're right. Okay, we got a line too. This is neat. And yes, you're the man. Okay, that's the way so we just, that's very good work. All right, so we got our thing the way it works. So yeah, we should be able to now. All right, this is good. So this is good. So that was the issue. So the issue was we had a malformed way of doing things. We have to put each ion item, and let me just see if I can format this thing. I don't think you can do that anymore here. Oh, I can. See if it does it, if it messes this up though. That looks like it's pretty good. All right, so what we have to do is the top part is ion list. I just made it an inset, so it's a bit pushed in from the left, right? And what it would look like on a device, we go more like this, right? So you can kind of do one of these, but you can push it out of the way, right? And the idea is when we click the edit button, it's going to take us to our page. If I click the delete button, it's going to delete me. Let's click the delete, right, and make that delete functionality work first. And again, we have some code for this, right? Because if you look at the walkthrough we're looking through, which is this one, right? We've done some of the stuff. We're importing and initializing all this stuff that we did already. We did all this work, right? Where it says, let's start coding, right, which is down here, coding time. Delete a song from our list. I want to do the delete part first. So here's where we actually display the song, or in this case, we're doing songs, but ours is games, right? We use the constructor where we did our constructor. Now we need to inject it into the constructor, which we did. Okay, now here's this method that they have called add song. All right, we're going to do the same thing for adding a new object. Now we have the our user interface. I'm just going to get rid of this. Our user interface has a button. This button itself is the thing that we're going to use to generate the add item. Let me bring this a little closer over here. So this is what we're doing. So we need to do something like this. For now, just to keep it simple, I'm going to grab all this stuff, right? And this is inside of our constructor, inside of our class, right? So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back over here. And inside of our class, which is here, the home inside this object. So here's our constructor. And if you want to put some text to understand what the class looks like, remember we did this with TypeScript? This is our constructor, right? These are our properties, right? Right. So this is for our home page. And under here will be our methods. This is where our methods are going to be. So it's very object oriented. If I put this in there, I have a method. Now it says alert control create, right? Which is going to come up with an alert, right? Which a prompt is going to come up. Now for them to do that, if I'm curious what they're going to do, they have this little import. So in the nav controller, so we have to put a controller in there. So up into imports, right? It's under Angular, so it's still Ionic Angular, which is up here. We're going to have to put in this alert controller for us to use that. So copy, go up here. If we're going to just use their code, and we can kind of trounce their code later if we don't like it, right? See how this thing works, right? So I'm just going to go with what they have. Instead of add song, by the way, we have to insert that into our constructor as well, which is a public property called the alert controller, which is going to be before Angular Fire. It's going to come over here. And just to show you all the properties in the constructor, you can actually put them in separate lines so you can see it. It's not going to hurt you from doing this. right? So here's all of our properties, right? And I'm gonna kind of just space them out so you can see them all. It's in the constructor. I'm taking these things. Here's the alert controller. Now I don't care about adding song. I'm going to add movie, right? So add movie or add game movie. Here's the prompt that we're going to make. A prompt that comes up, title, which would be the song name. In this particular case, they're actually creating a prompt. We want to go to another page, but for now we'll take what they've got. So it won't be title, message, and inputs, right? It'll be title, and then the message where it says enter a name for this new song, right? We're going to say game name, and the message is going to be enter a new name for your game. This is the thing that we can do here. Here's our inputs where we have the name is title and the placeholder is title. That's fine for our inputs. And I guess we'll kind of see what this looks like in a second. Here's our button. We have a cancel button to cancel. And we're also going to have a save button, which is save. And it's not going to be songs. We're going to push the to games. Games is the property we're going to push to. So this same thing here, when we push things, this data, we're going to say this.games.push is exactly what we want to do for our page, right? Our details page. For now, we're doing it in one page. Let's see what happens. So this add game is what I want to what I want to happen when I click the button, right? And you can see he talks about this basic alert code that he's doing, and he talked about this bottom piece right here, right, which is right here, which actually it saves the song into the database, right? And this is what would happen, right? But what we want to do is we want to and he talks about how to do an action sheet. I want to attach this thing onto the page somehow, right? Because we've got our page. I'm going to go back to delete song in a second. But we want to basically have our page have the ability, and there's the update, right? So all the code is right here on this little walkthrough. But what I'm looking for is the hooks to get all this done on the page. Now, he did that already. He kind of said a click event, and then when you actually click on the item, it says show options, song key, and song title, right? That's what this does. Okay, cool. And here is his actual song itself. So where do you put the add song method, right? We want to kind of put that in there somewhere where here it is. So with the click event, the button will add a song. In our case, it'll be add game. And all I want to do is pop up this and see how it looks and see if this is the kind of what I want it to look like. I don't want this to happen. I want to go to a details page. That's my end goal. I want to go to a details page so then I can tell you how all this works for you for your project, right? So click is the event. That's the type, and then whatever it's going to be. That's kind of easy, right? So it'll be add game in this case. So we're going to go to my home, and inside my button, which is my add new game button. Notice that he puts it inside the button tag in the beginning after it says icon only, right? So that is on the button itself. And we're going to say something like the click is equal to, and whatever it's called, and we call this add game, right? And if we did it correctly, it should look just like that, right? Let's see if this works. It actually does the pop-up that we're hoping for. So we're going to go back to here. Didn't break. If I click this up, it'll come up with the game title. Now that's neat, but that's not what I want. So it does actually work, and I know that I can access the event like that. But what I wanted to do is when I click the add new game, it takes me to the details page, right? So I don't have a page like that. I have my home page, I have a contact page, and an about page. I want to create a new page, right? And I don't care about having it in my tabs. My tabs layout is in my navigation from my pages. But when I come to my details page, all I care about is having a page to go to. So let's add a new page itself. Now, remember what I have in here. I have my about CSS, and my about TS, right? So these are all the objects that I have. And notice that when I go into the way it works, my page contact, my contact.ts, right? Nice and easy, right? So that's what I want to do. I want to generate these pages. My tabs, if I look at my tabs to get a hint of how this works, and if here's my tabs.html, I have an icon tab with a tab icon and a tab title. And the way it works on the back end, right, is I export the tabs. Here's my tab 1 root. And when I click on them, I have access to my home page, my about page, and my contact page. So this is a good hint of what I need to do for my home page. I need to have access to my details page. That's what I'm probably going to have to do, right? So this is number 1. So I got to kind of create this information here. So let's make a page. We're going to make a new folder. We're going to call this folder the details, the details page. And inside so it's under pages, details, right? And inside my details page, I want to add, I think I'm tempted to just grab my about page, which is kind of empty, and grab all these files, right? So kind of, copy, paste, copy. Yep. I like it. It's even easier. I was going to do it by hand, but you want to do it this way. I love automatic scaffolding. Move to trash. Yes, details. Let's do it by hand. Let's do it by automatic scaffolding. I like your scaffolding methodology. Tell me. So it's ion space G. Let's take a look. Add a page, ionic 2. Generate. To generate pages using ionic CLI. There we go. Another walkthrough. Ionic generate page, my new page. So G is the generate, and then page, and then my new page. Okay, so we'll do it. Space G, and then whatever my new page is, page, and then my new page. And we're going to call this details. Let's do that. That's nice and convenient. That's a beautiful thing. Here's my details page, and I've got my details right here. Generated by this. I don't care about this stuff. Here's my ionic page. So this is actually my details header, and we're going to create a little form to enter information in here, right? That's what's going to do everything. And the form itself is going to allow me to enter my data, and I'm going to go to my details page when it comes to adding and editing, right? That's the same thing we've done over and over again, right? Okay, but before that, we want to kind of include our page, which is our details page, just like we did for my tabs. This is a good hint about how to do it. So here's our hint. I want to have this same idea. I'm going to grab one of these, doesn't matter which one. And I'm going to go back to my home page, which is where I'm doing everything, inside my home.ts. And at the top somewhere, again, notice that my tabs does it right after my component. So somewhere before my component, at component. That's my guess. I want to kind of put this in here. And we're going to scrunch these up in a second. So instead of my contact page, this is going to say, this is going to be my details page. And we're going to go to ionic, so .up. It's going to go to details, and it's going to go to details. Yep. Details. Crunch these up. And we're going to put a little comment in here that says, get a reference to the details page. We have to kind of, get there somehow, right? These are all the requirements. So we got reference to details page that we're doing here. This is an idea of how it works. So instead of add game, we want to do the add game thing, but we want our add game to take us, instead of doing an alert like this, we want to take us to the details page. So how do we transport ourselves to another page? So I'm just going to take all that code out there. And this is just a method, right? So that's what we want to do. We want to shift to the other page. From a tabs perspective, if you look at the tabs, all we're doing here is we're saying my tab 1 root. When we click on tab 1 root, it takes us to home page or about page or whatever for our tabs component. But how do we do it from a navigation perspective? So let's go back to the drawing board. Look over here for navigation. Here's my navigation. And that might not be the thing to do, but basic navigation is we have an ion nav, We want to use navigation through a button. So we click on the button and it goes to the next page. And we see some ion headers that add components. Well, that's doing it all in one thing here. Export class, start page, and go to other page is the method where we nav control push other page. This is neat, but I want to go to the other page. How do you go to the pages, from basic navigation? Maybe this is it. I don't know. Let's take a look here. Component, other page, go back. And again, it goes this.nav controller. I guess we can use the nav controller because we have a nav controller in here in my home page, right? So here's my home page. And you've put in the nav controller. There it is, right? Nav controller is nav controller, lowercase. We could do this. That kind of gives us an idea of what's going to happen, right? So if we look at examples, this.nav controller and we want to, this goes back, but we want to go to something, right? So that means we have to go to the other page by push, whatever the other page is. Okay, so let's do that. So this nav controller dot push, and then the page to go to, right? So we're going to go push the page, which is going to be called, if I'm not wrong, details page. Details page. Can't see that works. So click on there. We can just go to the details page, see if that works. Cool. I'm going to go back here, and oh yeah, we probably have to start running this again. Unexserve. I'm going to wait for this to start. And this is way over here, and let's see what happens. Okay, so homepage says class homepage caused by no component factory found for details page. Component factory. Okay. So that's an issue. When we get to the details page, we have an issue. Pull this over here. This is what we want to do. And let's go back to the details page to see what's wrong. So because it says there's no component factory for that. Doesn't mean we didn't go there. If I go back to a link here, right, it says it's an error. So we're trying to get to it, right? But error in homepage, class homepage caused by no component factory for details page. All right. Let's see what they have here. So here's our start page and our constructor, our nav controller. And now do we have a ion login? Here's click go to other page, which is exactly what we've got going on. What about at the top of the component? Do we need to import? Yeah. Import start page. So root page is start page. And I kind of did that already. All right, so I can go root page. And we did this. So everything has been there, public, and our nav controller pushed to the other page. And then our nav, we're not going to do it in a nav bar. We're doing it in a button. It doesn't really matter how we get there. But we got to be able to get there somehow. And I'm wondering if we have to put in our root page at all. My root page would be the home page in order for me to push to the next one. Well, maybe, but that doesn't make any sense from a navigation perspective. Tab navigation, a popover. That's how we do the popovers. And we're going to pop. That's the present, the popover. We don't want to do present. Radio buttons and basic usage. Radios, we got a range. So we want to just do some kind of navigation. So again, I'm going to try this. Navigate to other page, Ionic 2. Maybe it'll show us some examples. I love this guy, right? He's the same guy we've been following the whole time, right? So pushing and popping, the root page, lots of pages. And okay, basic navigation. Here's our nav controller, Ionic Angular. We put our nav controller in there, and we have our another page. Our second page, but we have to import it first, which we've done. And what do we have to do in the second page? Nav controller.pop. Root page is any page. Easy enough. Nav controller set root. Nav controller so to the second page. We can push data over across as well, which we're going to do in a second. So does it give me a complete? Oh, here's the second page. So nav controller, nav params. And component. Let's go back and take a look at what that page looks like that we're getting to. So I'm going here, I'm going to my details page, and I've got my nav controller. which is exactly what I was hoping for. Ion view did load details page, console log. Anthony, any resolution? Any resolution? So what I want to do is I want to go to my details page from my my home page, right? So when I go here, when I click this add button, it's going to take me to my details page. I'm going to hit my add game, or go to details page, show details, and that's where it's going to go. And it's going to transfer some data from one page to the other. I want to transfer my ID from my page over to the other page. Yes.
I found the same error as well, but I found it was the tricks, quote unquote, would be to, I had to go into my app modules, so I actually had to add a specific creative page.
Oh, okay.
The engine components as well as
Just a moment. I like that. So you're saying way up into my app modules, like so out of the pages altogether, right? So app module. Oh, yes. Of course, we never registered it. That's always a bad thing. So let's do that. Let's register the pages. So we're going to say, take care, Marco. Import, and we're going to say our details page, right? And we're going to say from / pages, and then we're going to say details. Oops. Oh, details of capital D. I did. I'm pretty sure. No, lowercase details, and then details. Yeah. That should do it there. So we import it, and then inside here, this does make sense actually. So we're going to go into our details page. So details page. Oh. There we go, and we'll do the same thing down here because if it's not basically we haven't registered the page, and then that way it doesn't know where to go. Okay, so that should do it. And blah, blah, click the page, and we're good to go. And we have a back button, but the back button doesn't work. It does actually automatically. It takes us back to this page. So now we want to transfer information from one page to the other, which would be way over here. And the way we would do that when we transfer pages is when we push to the second page, we can transfer some data. What do I want to transfer? Right? Nothing right now. I'm not doing anything. I'm adding. When I'm editing, I would push stuff over. When I'm adding, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going over to the other page. So the other page, what I want it to look like really quickly is I want it to have some kind of form, right? Like a form that we can fill in, like text boxes or whatever that we can fill in, right? So if I look at some of this stuff, so toasts and tabs and icons and checkboxes and action sheets for components, cards. I wonder if it's going to be just menus and modals. Select, and actually it's an input more than anything else. Here we go, inputs. That's what I want. And what's kind of happening is I want fixed labels. Fixed labels up here, where username and password would be the stuff that I want. Floating labels. I see, so it kind of floats up. That's a funky effect. Inline labels, sorry, there, where you kind of click in there, do your thing. And it's a list again, so we're kind of setting up a list, and you have a bit of a button to sign in, but what we're going to do is the same thing, inset labels, which we kind of have the style of inset labels. I kind of like that. And placeholder labels, which is kind of you type in there and then it goes away, I'm guessing. Right, placeholders, yeah. I think I want this one the most. I want this one with the button on the bottom, right? So I'm going to kind of grab this list and I'm going to go over to code here. I'm going to my details page, and inside my content, I'm going to put this in a list. And it'll say game details. I'm gonna have in the top, and inside my placeholder will not be username. It'll be name, game name. This has this will be type of text. Let's see what other types they have available. Hopefully, it'll have other things in here like number. This will be because it's a different keyboard. and this will be a game cost. Another item in there. Say this will be a number as well, and this will be game rating, right? And actually, just too much game, so let's put a name. We'll say submit as a button. So we'll say do this. And now we need a submit button, which is, they give an example of here underneath the list, right? So we'll say this, this underneath here. And instead of sign in, we'll say submit, right? And depending on what we go here, we'll have a little list of stuff to do. Let's take a look and see what this looks like for us. So here we click onto it, and now we have this. Right? The submit button is kind of darn small, right? So maybe some kind of button. So ion, lots of div padding. And it should be, no, I like the other, I like what I had in there before, which was submit. Instead of block, we'll put in a ion button. And then with a color that is primary. Right. We're pretty good, right? This looks pretty good. So now if I type in there, I can get my name. Game details will be like, I don't know, Fallout 3 and costs. So that's neat. So cost gives you a bit of a spinner. That's not really what I wanted, right? I wanted like 8.79.99. I don't know if it was that much money. And a rating of 5.3. I'm not sure if I want that right now, the way it is the spinner control. If I click submit, it should do something. That's the idea. So I've got that getting in there. All right, so this thing is correct, but what I want to do is I want to somehow connect this. So when I click the button, when I click the submit button, whatever I take here updates or adds to the list. Okay. And I'm running out of time, but you see where I'm going with this. This is what you need to do for your to-do list. And again, what I'm doing is I'm checking the Ionic documentation, and as I'm going down, I'm looking through all the details here and trying to get myself to, with some little bit of walkthroughs to get all this stuff done. All right, so again, one of the things is we've been connecting to Firebase, all that stuff is done. But what I want to do now is do this something where instead of my add game being here inside of my, I want to kind of trigger my ad depending on what kind of message I send across to my details page, right? Because right now, the way my app is structured, I just go to my details page. So home, and if I go here, down here, I'm actually just going there. I'm not sending any information, right? So this travels to my details page, and I could have another one, which is maybe I have another one that's edit game, right? And then I still want to go somehow to my to my details page. But I want to indicate that when I go to my details page, here's my details page, I want to be able to do different things. So this one will have some kind of something I'm going to do with this one, and there's something that I'm going to do with this one when I push things over to the other page. Like maybe send across some kind of object to let me tell the page what operation I want to do. And depending on what I'm pushing over there to that page, I'm going to read that object and do that operation. When I click the submit button, depending on what I click, I'll have an ng if, right? And if it's an if this item is a edit, then I'll do this kind of operation. And if it's an add, I'll do something else. The other one that's easy to do is the delete. And the delete is already tied into our button. So if you look at our button here, it has actually a delete. We have a delete button. And down in here, we have the delete code, right? So how to delete something. There's how to add to something, right? And down in here, we have our delete, right? So we want to pass in the game ID to the delete function, right? Somehow. There's my ID, right? And we want to be able to do this to remove this song or to remove the item. So this is our inside of our action sheet. This is what does it. We have our text, and this is a different way of doing it. We're not doing it this way, where our handler is remove song, and we're passing in our song ID. Well, we can do the same thing, right? Remove song is the actual method. We're going to pass in the song ID. That was weird. When I double clicked, I kind of got the code. That's not what I wanted, but that's fine. We're going to pass in the song ID and the song title if you want to from remove. And they have an update as well, right? Song ID and song title. We don't do that. We can just put in if I go back. So where I kind of do the delete game, I want to be able to get whatever the song ID or the game ID and the game title is from there. So we're going to pass it into the handler, whatever that handler is, right? So I need to receive the game ID. You know, a game ID, I'm just going to put it in as game ID. Remember, I can use as little or as much of code hinting as I want here for TypeScript. I don't have to. But what I want to do is whatever the game ID is, I want to delete it, right? And then down in here is the delete code, something where I'm going to remove or here's what it is a string. So, okay, so game ID is a string. Sure. This is my delete game. And then this .games.remove, this .games.remove, and then whatever is my game ID. That's easy. Okay. Easy to do. So now we have to link this with a button, which we already have on the home page. So we'll talk about this stuff. Remember, we can also pass in parameters in here, depending on what we do, but we don't have to. I'm going to go to my home page, and where I see my delete button, here's my delete button. So this delete button itself can have an on-click event. So on or click is equal to, and then in quotations, delete game. We're going to pass in, I guess I would pass in the game ID, just a second. So when I do that, I believe game.id, I don't have that here, but I'll pass it in. See if I can do that, game.id. See how that works. And if it doesn't work, we'll figure out what that is, and then see if we can delete the game. Okay, so cool. Let's see if it compiled. Did it compile? Is it compiling? It's working. It's trying. I love when it does this. It says build finished. Refresh. There it is. So I want to kind of slide this across and click delete, and it should kill Fallout for us, right? But it didn't. It says error in homepage, class homepage caused by self parent view context delete game is not a function. Oh yeah. How about if I spell it right, Tom? Delete game. Delete game. And if I go down to my homepage, make sure it's called delete game. Yes, it is. So to the homepage, there it is. Save. And then I go back here. It's finished. Go over here. Get this stuff here. Pull it across and delete. And whoa, what did it delete? Deleted both games. Arg. That's not good. Well, let's see what happens on Firebase, right? So did Firebase kill everything? And let's go to our project. On the left is our database. Real-time database, no. Where's my overview? That's not where it is. Go to my console. And I want to go to my, wow, it's ever slow. I want to click on my Ionic project and go to database and see what I got. Yeah, it killed me. Look, it killed everything. So it's okay, it worked. It just worked too well. Well, luckily, guess what we have? We have an import JSON, which we can get that stuff back. That's why I made that file, right? Knowing that I'm going to mess up, right? So I've got this database.json file. Thank God I didn't kill that, right? And import, which should import the data successfully, which should give me my data back. And here it is. And I want to put in ID. Now, this is something interesting. I don't have an ID. So I couldn't find it. Maybe that's what the problem was. And I kind of, maybe do I have to even put the ID in? This, we don't have an ID in there, right? So let's put ID underscore ID. But value 1. And then we'll add it and we'll say, did it do it? ID. Did it? Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, 1, and we'll say add. And we'll get rid of this one. And we'll put another one. Good. We'll put another one in here with an ID of 2. Now it's underscore ID that I have to use, not ID. And let's see if that's the problem. So here, game underscore ID. Underscore ID. So delete game, pass it in. And if whatever this game is, hopefully it'll pass for this particular object. Now I wonder if this, Anthony, this is where it goes a little nuts, because do I even have in my games of game, this doesn't have, it doesn't translate here into my options, right? Because there wouldn't be any game. It would be every game, right, that I'd be deleting. So what I want to do is whatever this row is, that game of games, right? I want to be able to access this thing, and because it's outside of my, I don't know what it is, it's inside my item sliding. So it should give me game.id. But I can always search by name too. I don't have to use ID, right? Whatever the name is, I can search for that name, and whatever I'm deleting, I'm just deleting that name. I don't have to do it by ID. So let's go game.name. If this is correct, right? Game.name. And I'm not injecting it. I don't have to do injection because I'm doing it right here in the button. I'm not doing it as a thing. So I'm going to delete by name just because I know the name is there. And if I go, do we have more than one? Yeah, we do. Do different names, and then go into here, and then instead of game ID, we'll say game name. We'll remove by game name. Okay, see what that happens. And list, and we'll delete this bottom one. Delete. Okay, that didn't work. So that doesn't work. How about the top one? Does it delete both? All right, so that's interesting. So that didn't work. Didn't give me an error. Oh, how about this? How about I save? Template parse errors, unexpected close tag button, delete game, game name, icon name, trash. Okay, did I make some mistake? I did. Wow, what the hell happened here? Game dot name. I wonder if I got to put my game name in a different format. So format, and let's just kill this and click delete. No. Let's this one click delete. No. All right, let's change this to ID. So underscore ID. We're searching by ID now. We're going to go back to this part, and we're going to go back to ID for a second. Game ID. Weird. Again, I'm just guessing how this works, but let's see. Here we go. Game ID. What the? Named ID. Okay, no. Game ID. All right, so we'll do this. It's building. Come back. Kill this one, delete this one, and runtime error. Home page caused by whatever. Snapshot. Let's take a look at my home page. Game ID. Yes?
Is the ID a string? If you're expecting a string, like is it input as like a float value or something?
Well, that's easy to fix. If that's the problem, we just go back here and just remove this, right? We don't have to tell what it is. It's by ID, right? 1 minute, guys. We'll be at. I'm running a little late. If we don't figure this out, like I said, it's not a big deal. Yeah. So something's up with that game thing. It says method requires a key, snapshot reference, or unwrapped snapshot. right? So
So
well,
in your back end, are these an int or is it a string?
it's an int,
I thought they need your IDs.
but it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter what I'm using. All right, well, we'll get back to this. This is the idea. I'm trying to give you guys an idea of how this works, right? I think you guys should have a good direction from here. It's not that bad. I mean, it's basically just trial and error to get this work. Honestly, it is. Even if you read the book, it tells you the same thing. We'll get back to this hopefully next week. Remember that please be on time next week because there will be a midterm test next week, right? Which will have, well, I'll have you build something with either Angular, with Ionic, or iOS and Android, or whatever you want to use, okay? Thanks so much, guys. See you next week.
Just all practical or?
Yeah, all practical.